Hi guys, happy Monday. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I'm going to be picking up where I left off on the last Moses video, the one about the Exodus. So if you have already watched that video, you'll remember that where we left the Israelites was wandering in the desert for 40 years. And so if you remember, there had been 12 spies who went into the promised land, and only 2 of them came back with a good report. And unfortunately, Israel didn't listen to the good report. They listened to the bad one. And so, because of their doubt in God's ability to take care of their enemies, they were not allowed to go in and they passed away. But the 2 spies who did believe in God and the new generation of Israelites, they get to enter. Finally, after all these years of wandering through a desert, they have this lush, beautiful land waiting for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is like, man, green grass everywhere, fruits. It's a beautiful place. It probably looks like paradise compared to where they've been. And so God calls them out and they start to prepare to enter. And one of the first miracles that happens, one of the first things we see God do, is he steps in and he tells Israel's new leader, who was one of those 12 spies, a man named Joshua, one of the 2 who believed in God. He was Moses' right-hand man and is now in charge of the hundreds of thousands of Israelites that there now are. And so he tells Joshua to gather the priests who are in charge of the Ark of the Covenant, which I haven't spent a lot of time on, but God actually told Moses to build a tabernacle as a physical house, kind of like a church or a synagogue, for God's presence in the middle of the camp of the Israelites. And within that tabernacle, he told him to put the Ark of the Covenant, which was a golden box with 2 cherubim on top that represented the mercy seat and was the symbolic representation of Israel's faith in God, and is where God's presence dwelled within this tent, this tabernacle. Google it sometime. There are a lot of representations of it, like remakes. There's actually a group in Minnesota who's actually followed the instructions that are in the book of Leviticus, where God measures out exactly, actually I think it's Exodus. My gosh, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart and can't remember. God actually gives him very specific measurements for this tent. And so it's in there. People have taken those measurements and remade it. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay, so the tabernacle was designed to be portable, and the Ark of the Covenant was put on poles, and only these priests could carry it. And so this ark represented God's presence going ahead of the nation of Israel. And God told Joshua, you're about to cross a big river, the Jordan River, and I want the priests to go through first and carry with them the Ark of the Covenant. And so the priests go, and as soon as their feet hit the water of the Jordan River, it piles up on one side and then piles up on the other, and Israel is able to walk across the river on dry land. Do you remember where else we've seen this happen? When the Israelites left Egypt, God parted the Red Sea, and now he has parted the Jordan and is allowing them to step foot into the land of Canaan. But there's a problem. There are people in the land. Just like the 10 spies had said, there are other kingdoms, other tribes, fortified cities standing in the way. But God has told Joshua to be strong and courageous because God is going with him. And so boldly they proceed. And at one point they send in a couple more spies to check on the one city that they first encounter, that is standing in the way of them going any further. And this is the city of Jericho. Now, these 2 spies go into the city of Jericho and they encounter a woman named Rahab. And Rahab is a member of the city. She's a citizen of these foreign people. And she sees the spies and knows that they're from the nation of Israel. She's heard about them, and she professes faith in the God of Israel, saying that she knows that he's the one true living God because she's heard the report of what he did for them in Egypt. And so she agrees to hide the spies, and they're able to scope out the city and then leave and make it back safely to Joshua to report what they have seen. But God ends up stepping in again, and he tells them not to engage in battle with the city. Instead, he tells them to march around the walls of the city one time every day for 6 days with the priests at the front of the line. And every day the priests will blow their horns and they will shout, but the soldiers will stay silent. Until the 7th day, when God tells them to march around 7 times. And on the last round of the round around the city, he tells them to all in unison blow their horns and shout. And when they do, he promises that the walls of the city will fall. And so by faith, Joshua leads the Israelites out. And sure enough, after the 7th time around, on the 7th day, they shout and the walls fall. And Israel is able to conquer the city of Jericho and protect Rahab, the woman who had helped the spies. They end up adopting her into the nation, and she ends up becoming pretty special in her own right. You can read about her in different genealogies. In fact, her husband and her end up having a son named Boaz, who marries a woman named Ruth, who has a son named Obed, who has a son named Jesse, who has a son named David, who ends up being the many, many times great grandfather of Jesus. Rahab is an outsider, but because of her faith in God, God ends up putting her in Christ's lineage, which is pretty cool. And I think even bigger is that in this story we see that, again, all things are possible with God. And what seems impossible from a human standpoint, from a natural, just what our eyes can see, is not impossible with the God of the universe. And I think this story is a powerful reminder for me, especially right now, in the midst of everything going on and feeling like I'm powerless and feeling like this virus is never going to end. I think stories like this are important to remember that God is in fact in control. Even when we don't see it, he's still bigger than anything we face. And we can have faith in that and take comfort and peace in the knowledge that with God, all things are possible, and our God is always bigger than anything we ever face. I hope you guys have a great start to your week. I'll see you guys tomorrow.